The day the Zatari arrived was one of the most anticipated moments in human history. Earth, still recovering from past wars and crises, stood on the cusp of something grand. The news buzzed through every corner of the globe. A peaceful first contact with an alien race offering miracles in the form of advanced technology and cures for diseases long thought incurable. Humanity had come a long way. After decades of civil unrest, economic collapse, and wars that nearly broke the planet, Earth now basked in the glow of hope. The UN, once fractured and weak, had solidified, forming an intergovernmental unity that guided the planet towards this monumental moment. Yet, despite the glowing optimism, a shiver ran down the spine of every diplomat and soldier watching from Earth's observation stations. In front of the media, the Zatari were elegant, tall, with sleek silver skin and eyes like liquid starlight. They had come with gifts, medical advances, propulsion technology, and promises of prosperity. Their leader, a being named Zaira, spoke with the calm confidence of someone who knew the weight of history. The universe is vast, and its burdens are heavy, but with unity, with trust, we can all thrive together, she said, her voice like a soothing balm. But as the leaders clapped and the crowd cheered, an underlying fear crept into the minds of those who remembered Earth's bloody history. Could it truly be that easy? Could humanity, scarred from years of warfare, embrace this peace without questioning it? The first contact had all the trappings of a miracle, but Earth was vulnerable. The question lingered: what did the Zatari want from them? The following months passed in a blur of optimism. The Zatari's technological gifts transformed humanity's society in ways never before imagined. Earth's energy crises were solved, diseases cured, and interstellar travel became a reality. The new alliance between the Zatari and Earth was hailed as the dawn of a new era. Governments across the globe, desperate to push forward from the ashes of conflict, eagerly signed the Genetic Exchange Initiative. The deal was simple. In exchange for the Zatari's unparalleled medicine and access to galactic citizenship, Earth would provide genetic material, samples that the Zatari promised would be used to better understand humanity. At first, no one questioned it. The deal seemed too good to be true. With human history marked by war and suffering, the allure of utopia was too powerful to resist. Earth's new generation of diplomats and scientists heralded the agreement as a shining achievement. The Zatari were not conquerors, they were saviors. But not everyone shared this view. There were whispers, there were suspicions. As Earth's leaders gathered in grand councils, all eyes turned to the few who hesitated to sign. A few of the older military officers, still carrying the weight of past betrayals, cautioned against trusting alien motives so easily. And yet, the gifts kept coming. The world embraced the Zatari's vision, even as the cracks in their resolve began to widen. Kira Monroe, stationed on Mars, began to wonder, how much trust could one place in a race so perfect, so seemingly flawless?
Mars. The red planet was supposed to be a new beginning for Kira Monroe. She had left Earth far from the violence of the Pacific Uprising, a war that had left her scarred, both physically and emotionally. Her squad had been lost, and she alone survived, an unspoken survivor's guilt gnawing at her every day. Kira had chosen the quiet life. The Mars colony offered peace, or so she thought. It was isolated, remote, a place where the only duty was to maintain the base and tend to the growing crops of Earth's first off-world settlers. But the peace she had sought was hollow. Every time she gazed into the endless stretch of red desert, her mind wandered back to the battlefield, back to the bloodshed, the explosions, the promises of peace that had turned to dust. Her memories, once buried deep, now haunted her every waking moment. They weren't just of war. They were of trust betrayed, of leaders making decisions that led to her comrades' deaths. Kira had learned the hard way that nothing came without a price. And now, as Earth's new alliance flourished with the Zatari, She couldn't shake the feeling that the past was repeating itself. She had no love for politics, but something didn't sit right. The Zatari were perfect, too perfect, and Earth was vulnerable, desperate for hope. Kira spent her days in the barren Martian landscape, her eyes constantly scanning the horizon for something that didn't belong. Something felt off, and she couldn't ignore it. The Zatari's true request came on a quiet morning. It wasn't just about the genetic exchange initiative anymore. They wanted more. Zaira herself had made the request. It was delivered with the grace of a diplomatic gesture, yet there was something behind her words that unsettled Kira. "We seek only to understand your species better," Zaira had said, her voice gentle yet oddly hollow. "The information you provide will be a bridge to a future where humanity thrives across the galaxy. This is our gift to you, a partnership." But Kira heard the unspoken question beneath her words. Why did they need our genetic material? This wasn't just about medical advances or peace. This was something deeper. The way they looked at humans, it wasn't admiration. It was calculation. The request seemed benign. After all, they had given so much. But Kira's gut told her something was wrong. The more she thought about it, the more certain she became. The Zatari were hiding something, and if Earth wasn't careful, it might pay the price. Mars had become her prison. Even with all the space, all the freedom, Kira felt trapped. And as Earth's leaders smiled for the cameras, shaking hands with the Zatari, Kira kept her eyes on the details others ignored. Late at night, she sat in her modest quarters, reviewing the transmissions from Earth. The Zatari were everywhere, and they were watching. Not just Earth's governments, but the people, their genetic codes, their secrets. Kira began to notice subtle irregularities in the reports, hidden patterns, and coded signals. It was as if they were collecting data on something far deeper than mere human genetics. She started her own investigation, under the radar, alone. Her distrust ran too deep, too personal to ignore. She wasn't about to let another race repeat the mistakes of the past. Her fingers trembled as she scanned through encrypted files. There was one name that appeared too frequently, Zaira, a being who had the power to influence the fate of entire civilizations. And the more Kira uncovered, the more she realized Earth might be on the verge of making the same mistake it had made before. Only this time, the consequences could be far worse. The tension built day by day. The stage was set for a showdown, one between the trust Earth had placed in the Zatari and the hidden truth that Kira was determined to expose before it was too late.
The red, dust-swept plains of Mars had once felt like a peaceful escape for Kira Monroe. After years of combat medic service, she sought solace in the isolated colonies, hoping to leave behind the weight of past wars. Mars, a desolate world, was slowly coming to life with its own kind of quiet prosperity. The air was thin, the colony was small, but it was a home, until now. The first disappearance was that of a child, then another. Kira glanced out her window, the fading orange sunlight casting long shadows across the colony. The announcements began just days ago. At first, just rumors. Now they were official. Families torn apart. The names, innocent lives, sounded like a nightmare. But the worst hit Kira personally. Lena, her adopted niece, the girl she promised to protect. Her mind raced, too quick for her heart to keep up. She couldn't breathe, couldn't focus. Lena had vanished. A sudden chill gripped the colony. People whispered about the Zatari, the aliens who had been benevolent enough to share their technology. Their promise of peace had lulled humanity into a fragile tranquility. But now, the disappearances couldn't be ignored. Kira's gut twisted. Something wasn't right. Kira didn't wait for permission.
Her military instincts, honed on the battlefield, told her to act fast before everything slipped into the abyss. She gathered a small team, veterans who knew how to move without being seen, and set off to track down the truth. The underground facility was buried beneath Mars' surface, hidden beneath layers of dust and secrecy. The entrance was concealed, camouflaged by advanced alien tech that made it invisible to the naked eye, but not to Kira. When the team finally breached the complex, they were met with horrors beyond comprehension. Stasis chambers lined the walls, each one holding a human body. But they weren't dead. No, they were alive, frozen in time. The sight made Kira's stomach churn. She stepped closer to one chamber, her breath catching in her throat. It wasn't just any human DNA they were harvesting. These bodies, these humans, were being experimented on, their genetic material taken and altered, spliced with Zatari biology. It was sickening. The walls were adorned with alien writing, incomprehensible but familiar. A name for this genetic exchange was etched into the data: genetic harvest. The peaceful Zatari had lied. They hadn't come to save humanity, they'd come to use it. The truth hit Kira like a freight train. The Zatari weren't just after human DNA for scientific study. They needed it. They needed it to survive. The realization settled into her bones with a terrible finality. The Zatari species was dying, and their biology was too unstable. But human DNA, with its unique adaptability, could rewrite their genetics, saving them from extinction. A voice echoed in Kira's mind. Had they known? Had humanity willingly traded its future to save a dying race? Kira's hands clenched into fists. Her heart pounded in her chest, a mix of disbelief and anger flooding her veins. There was no easy answer, no simple black and white morality, but the stakes had never been clearer. The Zatari were not the benevolent saviors they claimed to be. They were a species desperate to survive by any means necessary, at the cost of humanity's very future. Kira's mind raced. How far was humanity willing to go to protect itself? How far would she go? Kira couldn't stand by and watch. There was no longer any question of trust. She had to act. With the help of a few brave souls, Kira launched a rescue operation. The stasis chambers had to be destroyed, the captives freed. She fought her way through the alien facility, evading Zatari patrols and using every tactic she knew from her time as a soldier. The tension was unbearable. Every second mattered, and the clock was ticking. The Zatari forces were swift, their advanced technology a stark contrast to Kira's guerrilla tactics. Yet she was relentless, driven by the faces of the lost children of Lena. The final chamber held them, dozens of frozen humans trapped in a grotesque state of stasis. Kira and her team breached the chamber, deactivating the stasis pods one by one and freeing the captives. But as they made their escape, alarms blared and Zatari forces surged forward. A wave of soldiers surrounded them. Kira's pulse quickened. This was it. The line had been crossed.
Kira's actions did not go unnoticed. The Zatari issued a declaration of war, labeling humanity as the aggressor. The betrayal ran deeper than Kira had ever imagined. The truth about Earth's leaders was exposed. They had known. The peace with the Zatari was never about mutual trust. It had been a trade. Earth's leaders had sold out their own people, offering humanity's future for the survival of an alien race. Kira stood in front of the video screen, her hands shaking with fury. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Earth had betrayed its own future for the sake of political expediency. Kira's breath hitched as she thought of Lena, of every child who had vanished. The emotional weight of it all crushed her. The world she fought to protect had turned its back on humanity's future for a moment of peace. But she wasn't ready to give up. She never would be. Humanity's resilience was about to be tested like never before. The line had been drawn, and Kira Munro was ready to fight for the future of her people, no matter the cost. The dim, flickering lights of the underground base cast long shadows across the concrete walls. Inside, Kira stood at the entrance of a hidden resistance stronghold, her breath steady despite the fear gnawing at her chest. The hum of the air filtration system was the only sound, but beneath it, the heartbeat of defiance pulsed strong. The members of the rebel coalition were an eclectic group: scientists, ex-soldiers, rogue hackers, and survivors of the Za'Tari's terrifying experiments. Their uniforms were worn and patched, but their eyes were sharp, filled with the fire of rebellion. Kira had only just arrived, but the urgency in the air was palpable. The coalition's numbers were few, their resources limited, and the stakes higher than ever. The Za'Tari's control over the colonies was tightening, and Kira's discovery of their true motives had only fueled their resolve. A tall man with a grizzled face, Captain Vance, stepped forward, his voice low and serious. "We know what we're up against, but we don't have much time. The Za'Tari are getting desperate." Kira nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. She was no longer just a survivor. She was a leader. And these people were her allies, her unlikely family. Together, they were fighting not just for survival, but for the future of humanity. Despite the tension in the room, Kira felt a surge of determination. They might be small, but they were united by a common cause. They had found each other in the shadows, and in those shadows, they would strike. In a secluded room within the resistance base, Kira faced Dr. Ezra Khan, a man whose mind had once shaped the future of human genetics, and whose conscience now weighed heavy with regret. His once pristine white coat was stained with years of hiding, his face drawn with the burden of his past actions. Dr. Khan's hands shook as he looked at the old datapads in front of him. "I never thought it would go this far," he muttered, his voice tinged with guilt. "The Za'Tari, they promised us peace. They made us believe they were helping humanity." Kira, ever the pragmatist, crossed her arms. Helped humanity, or just manipulated us? They've been harvesting our DNA, splicing it into their own species for survival, and you helped them. A flicker of pain crossed Dr. Khan's eyes. "I thought I was saving lives. I thought it was for the greater good, but I never imagined the consequences. The Za'Tari, what they've done to us, to you, it's unforgivable." Kira's gaze softened, but only for a moment. "And now, you're here, hiding from them, from the truth." His shoulders sagged. "I can help you, Kira. I have the knowledge. But you have to understand, the technology we used, it's not just a weapon. It's a way to rewrite biology. And that power, it's dangerous. It can either save or destroy us all." Kira stood tall, her decision clear. "Then we'll use it to save humanity." Private Tio Bay's youthful enthusiasm was a stark contrast to Kira's steely determination. He was a soldier, only 20, but his eyes were already hardened by the brutality of war. Yet there was a fire in him that Kira hadn't seen in a long time: hope. "Anything you say, Kira, I'm with you," Tio said, his voice filled with a mixture of reverence and resolve. His eyes never left her as they walked through the resistance base. "You're not a child anymore, Tio," Kira said quietly, eyeing him carefully. "This isn't just about fighting. It's about making hard choices, about survival." Tio grinned, his youthful idealism still shining through despite the darkness around them. "I know, but you're doing what no one else has the guts to do. You're the reason I fight." Kira's gaze softened for a moment before she straightened, her voice firm. "I don't want you to idolize me. I want you to think, to make the right choices when it matters." As Tio nodded, his admiration for Kira was clear, but so was his determination. He wasn't just following her, he was ready to step up, even if it meant risking everything. The mission was set. Kira's team had planned every detail down to the last second, but the closer they got to the Za'Tari's DNA core, the higher the stakes became.
The base where the Jatari kept their most important assets was a fortress. Deep in the heart of their alien world, the DNA core housed the twisted genetic manipulation experiments that had driven Kira to act. This was where humanity's genetic material was being used to save a dying species, and where the future of human existence was being written. Kira's heart raced as they approached the outer security gates. Private Tio Bay and Dr. Ezra Khan were at her side, along with a team of rogue hackers and soldiers. The plan was simple but dangerous: infiltrate the facility, broadcast the truth to Earth, and escape before the Jatari could retaliate. But nothing about this was simple. The Jatari security systems were unlike anything Earth had ever encountered. Biometric scanners, motion sensors, and alien tech that seemed to read minds kept them on edge. They had to move fast. Too slow, and they'd be caught. Tio's fingers flew across the console as the team breached the first layer of security. The tension in the air was unbearable. Kira's mind raced, each second feeling like an eternity. Every door they passed through felt like a step closer to the end, or worse, to failure. But then the unexpected happened: a security breach. The Jatari had detected them. The countdown began. "We're running out of time," Kira said through clenched teeth. "We need to move, now." They sprinted through the facility, barely avoiding detection, with Tio and the hackers working frantically to disable systems ahead of them. The DNA core loomed ahead, but they were about to face the fight of their lives. As they broke into the heart of the Jatari's operations, Kira's eyes fell upon something she hadn't expected. Humans, not in stasis, but alive. Hybrid creatures, half human, half Jatari, stood in eerie silence, their faces filled with confusion and sorrow. One of them, a woman with dark eyes and scars along her face, stepped forward. "Please, you don't understand. We didn't ask for this. We were forced." Kira's heart clenched as the woman's voice broke. She had seen what the Jatari were capable of, what they had done to her people. But seeing the hybrids, creatures created through the very DNA manipulation Kira had been fighting against, filled her with a deep moral conflict.
"Are you a monster too?" Kira asked, her voice tight with anger and sorrow. The hybrid woman shook her head. "We're not monsters. We're just trying to survive." Kira turned away, her thoughts racing. She had the power to destroy the technology, to stop this madness. But could she condemn these creatures to death for a crime they hadn't chosen? "Kill the system," Kira ordered, her voice firm but uncertain. "End it now." But a voice from the back of the room made her hesitate. Dr. Ezra Khan, who had been silent until now, stepped forward, his face drawn with guilt. "Kira, there may still be a chance. We could cure them, fix their biology. They could be human again." The tension was unbearable. The choices were clear: destroy the system or risk trying to save what was left of the hybrids. Could humanity afford to save them? Would the Jatari ever stop? Kira's mind raced as the weight of her decision pressed down upon her. Kira's heart sank as she watched the peacekeeper troops march in, Earth's own soldiers now turned against her. The Jatari had manipulated Earth's government, turning its once peaceful defenders into instruments of oppression. Earth's peacekeepers were no longer allies, they were enemies. "We can't fight them," whispered Kira, her voice thick with disbelief. "They're one of us." But there was no time for doubt. The Jatari had already manipulated Earth's leadership, and the conspiracy had spread too deep for Kira to trust anyone. Her allies within the resistance now looked over their shoulders, unsure who to trust. The conflict with the peacekeepers wasn't just external, it was internal, tearing apart the very fabric of humanity's struggle for survival. Kira knew that if she couldn't navigate this betrayal, the resistance would fall apart. Earth's own military, now controlled by the Jatari, would be the final nail in humanity's coffin. With the odds stacked against them, Kira's resolve hardened. "We fight," she said, the weight of the truth setting in. "We fight for humanity's future." As the peacekeepers moved in, the first shot was fired. The Resistance fleet drops out of warp speed as Mars looms large in the distance, a red, barren wasteland. Beneath the surface, buried deep within Mars' ancient forgotten caverns, lies the DNA Spire, a towering metallic fortress shimmering with ominous energy. The air inside the command center crackles with tension. Kira, the leader of the Resistance, stands at the center, her face hard but resolute. The team of scientists, soldiers, and hackers around her have one objective: destroy the Za'Tari's hybrid program and prevent humanity's genetic override. Kira's voice cuts through the nervous chatter. "We either win this today, or the last shred of humanity will be nothing more than a memory." Tactical explosions roar in the distance as the first wave of fighters slams into the Spire's defenses. The Resistance's makeshift fleet is small but determined, a ragtag group of ex-soldiers and hackers with one thing in common: survival. But as the first shots echo through the dusty corridors, a sudden realization hits them all. This mission is their final chance. The DNA Spire must be stopped at all costs. Tension rises as the Resistance's forces approach the Spire's entrance, guarded by Za'Tari elite soldiers, their faces hidden beneath alien helmets, their weapons aimed directly at the oncoming threat. Kira orders her team into action. "We breach now. Time is against us." The plan unfolds, human ingenuity combined with captured Za'Tari tech. They use stolen alien cloaks to slip past sensors, bypassing security and slowly infiltrating deeper into the Spire's core. The Resistance uses every tool at their disposal: hacking, sabotage, and sheer audacity. But time is against them. The Za'Tari forces are closing in, and they're far from finished. The hybrid program must be stopped, or humanity will lose its last chance for freedom. The underground labs of the DNA Spire are a maze of alien technology, their purpose now clear: to erase humanity's future. Za'Tari guards patrol every corner, their steps heavy against the metallic floors. But the Resistance pushes on, blasting their way into deeper chambers. Explosions crackle as the sounds of gunfire and shouts of the wounded fill the air. Kira leads the charge, moving through the corridor with fierce determination. The team works together in sync, each member doing what they do best: hacking, fighting, and improvising. But with every step forward, the pressure increases. The Resistance is on the defensive now, the environment itself an enemy. Unpredictable alien tech makes their every move a gamble. As debris falls from the ceiling, Teo Bay, a young soldier, yells, "We need to move faster, Kira, they're coming." Kira's voice is low, but filled with resolve. "We don't stop until we reach the core. We move or we die here." The battle intensifies as Za'Tari forces close in, and the team must fight tooth and nail for every inch. The Resistance's strength lies in their unity, each member facing down death but refusing to break. Kira knows that the battle for humanity's future is being fought here, and every loss in this fight carries the weight of every human soul. The stakes have never been higher. The screams of battle echo in the background as Kira rounds a corner and finds something that nearly stops her heart. Lena, a close friend and fellow Resistance fighter, is slumped against a wall, her body mangled, her skin distorted, an abomination of the Za'Tari hybrid program. Kira's breath catches. She's alive, but changed. Her limbs, once human, now sport alien enhancements. Her face is scarred, and her eyes, they no longer hold the same warmth they once did. "Lena?" Kira whispers, barely able to hold back the tears. Lena's eyes flicker with recognition, but they're also filled with torment. "Kira, I can't hold on much longer." Kira looks at the hybrid program's machinery, pulsating in the background. Her mind races. She could end Lena's suffering, but it would cost the mission. The time it would take to save her might be the time they need to stop the entire program. Her hand shakes as she reaches for Lena, but a voice in her ear pulls her back to reality. "Commander," a voice crackles through her comm, "we're out of time. The DNA core." The choice is impossible. Kira's eyes narrow, and in a voice choked with emotion, she orders, "Lena, you have to fight this. I promise I'll come back for you." Lena nods weakly, but her eyes are filled with fear. "Kira, if you don't, they'll finish what they started." The clock is ticking. Kira turns away, the pain of leaving her friend behind crushing her. But she has no choice. For humanity to survive, the hybrid program must be stopped, no matter the cost. As the team nears the DNA core, they realize that Za'Tari reinforcements are closing in. The mission is reaching its critical phase, and there's no room for failure. Dr. Ezra Khan, a geneticist who once helped create the DNA protocols, knows that the only way to delay the enemy long enough for the resistance to reach the core is for him to stay behind. "I'll buy you time," Dr. Khan says, his voice steady despite the chaos. "I'm not walking away from this." Kira protests, her voice filled with desperation. "We don't have time for this, Khan. We need you here, alive." But Dr. Khan shakes his head, eyes filled with resolve. "You don't understand, Kira. This is the only way. If I don't do this, the mission ends here. You need to finish what I started." With a final, determined nod, Dr. Khan steps into the chaos, using Za'Tari technology to block the incoming forces long enough for the others to breach the core. His actions buy just enough time for the team to advance, but it costs him everything. As the rest of the team watches from a distance, Khan's silhouette disappears into the smoke, his sacrifice marking the moment humanity's resilience shines through. Kira, breathless and covered in grime, races toward the central core. The room hums with Za'Tari tech, alien machinery pulsating and flashing as if alive. She scans the network, her fingers flying over the controls, trying to merge human ingenuity with Za'Tari technology. She is desperate, but determined. The plan is risky. If it fails, the consequences will be catastrophic. She taps into the hybrid control system, using a combination of stolen alien data and human hacking techniques. Slowly, a DNA feedback loop begins to form, disrupting the Za'Tari's control of humanity's genetic programming. Tension builds as the program begins to unravel, alien machinery sparking and glitching. Kira's heart races. This is their last chance. The feedback loop takes effect, causing the hybrid programming to destabilize. Kira's breath catches as she realizes they might have done it. But the room is shaking now. Za'Tari forces are closing in, and time is running out. As the program continues to collapse, Kira knows they're on the edge of victory, but they're not out yet. The mission hangs in the balance. With the hybrid program disintegrating before them, Kira activates the broadcast system. Across the cosmos, the world is watching. Humanity's struggle for freedom plays out on every screen, a desperate fight for survival. The Resistance streams footage of their assault on the Spire, exposing the Za'Tari's manipulation of humanity's genetics. The revelation is powerful, raw. Earth's people now know the truth, and so do the alien systems that once saw humanity as insignificant. As the broadcast reaches its final moments, the entire galaxy watches. Kira stands, her face streaked with dirt and blood, staring at the screen. The truth is out, and it is undeniable. But it is not just a victory, it is a moment of defiance. Humanity has stood up, defied the odds, and shown the universe that no one, not even the Za'Tari, can erase them. The broadcast continues, a testament to the resilience of humanity's spirit and a warning to the universe. Never underestimate humanity. The broadcast had been a turning point, a direct message to the universe. Humanity's truth finally out in the open. The revelation of the hybrid program, a dark secret that spanned years of manipulation and genetic exploitation, had shaken Earth to its core. The people, once unaware,
now demanded answers, accountability, and justice. Protests flooded the streets of every major city across the globe. From Beijing to New York, from Cairo to Buenos Aires, millions of voices screamed for change. Earth's governments, already fragile from years of war and alien influence, were crumbling. The world had never been this united, and it had never been this divided. In the halls of power, the leaders who once controlled Earth with the might of politics and military power now found themselves scrambling. The UN, once a beacon of diplomacy, now teetered on the brink of collapse as heads of state made desperate moves to maintain control. Their secret manipulations, hidden behind shiny facades of diplomacy, were now exposed. The Zatari influence, once a shadow, was now a glaring truth. Earth had been playing the role of pawn in a galactic game. We must act quickly. The entire political system is on the verge of collapse. The truth is a weapon in the hands of the people, and they've started their uprising. But in the chaos, something extraordinary was happening. Humanity was rising. The outcry, fueled by anger and the thirst for justice, sparked a revolution. A new wave of leaders emerged from the grassroots, the voices of common men and women who had been oppressed for too long. The streets became battlegrounds of ideologies. Some demanded an end to the current system, others rallied behind the promise of a better future. Yet through the madness, humanity's resilience shone brighter than ever. The people wanted change, they wanted accountability, and they would stop at nothing to reclaim their world. Kira stood amidst the ruins of the battlefield, her once battle-worn face now etched with the weight of victory and loss. Despite the medals, the accolades, and the praises, she rejected the hero's title. The world had changed, and she didn't want to stand above it. Instead, she threw herself into the difficult work of rebuilding. To her, the mission was never about winning, it was about what came next. We don't need medals, we need homes, we need families. We need to make sure the people who fought for this have something to return to. Her leadership was unflinching as she coordinated with alien allies and human organizations to start the slow process of recovery. Despite the galactic war, Kira's focus was on humanity's future. Working with the Zatari factions that had come to terms with their past, Kira helped set up new colonies, helping survivors find new purpose. But it wasn't easy. The scars of the war ran deep. She saw firsthand the trauma that had shaped so many, the fractured families, the lost communities. Yet, through the rubble, she saw a glimmer of hope. Her legacy wouldn't be written in the history books. It would be written in the lives of the people she saved, in the futures she helped rebuild. Lena sat on the edge of the ruins, staring at the stars, her hands trembling as they ran over the alien marks on her skin. The hybrid transformation had changed her, inside and out. A part of her still felt human, but the alien DNA coursing through her veins made her a living testament to humanity's struggle and its survival.
I'm not fully human anymore. I can't be, but maybe that's not a bad thing. Her journey was one of self-discovery. The hybrid program had twisted her body, leaving her with features that weren't entirely human. Yet she found herself in a strange, unspoken unity with the alien forces she once fought against. Her transformation became a symbol, not of destruction, but of possibility. The lines between species had blurred, and in her, there was potential for a new future, one where humanity and the Zatari might coexist. But the cost was high. Lena struggled daily with the trauma of her transformation. Each day was a battle to reconcile who she had been and who she was becoming. I don't know if I'll ever be able to call myself human again, but maybe that's okay. I'm still me. The struggle was internal, but it became clear. Lena's survival was a beacon for others who had been caught in the crossfire of the hybrid program. Her presence spoke to the possibility of unity, of transcending the boundaries that once divided them all. The defeat of the Zatari was not a victory that came without cost. As the alien forces retreated, their once unified front shattered. factions within the Zatari, some remorseful for their actions, now found themselves divided. The question arose, should they continue the path of conquest, or should they seek redemption through cooperation with humanity? We cannot go back to the old ways. Our war has been lost, but a new path is possible. We can find peace if only we can find common ground. This was not just a war between humans and Zatari anymore. It was a war for the soul of the alien species. Some factions clung to their belief in dominance and superiority, unwilling to bend to the pressure of peace. Others, seeing the humanity's resilience, reached out in hopes of rebuilding what they had broken. Humanity now stood at a crossroads. The Zatari factions would determine whether the galaxy would remain fractured or whether an era of cooperation was possible. The stakes were high, and Earth's response would shape the future. The days of Earth pleading for a seat at the table were gone. Humanity, having withstood the hybrid program, the galactic war, and the alien betrayal, now stood tall on the intergalactic stage. Kira and the resistance leaders led a new delegation, not begging for alliances, but asserting their right to be seen as equals. We have not come here as beggars. We've come as equals. Earth has paid the price for its survival, and now we offer you a choice. Either stand with us, or we stand alone. The galaxy watched in silence. For centuries, humans had been seen as insignificant players, pawns to be manipulated. But no longer. With allies and new technologies, Earth had carved its place. Humanity, having fought its battles on its terms, was now a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Humanity, once the underdog, was now an equal among the stars. And it would be their resilience, their ingenuity, and their indomitable will that would shape the future of the galaxy. The war was over, but the real battle, the battle for the soul of the galaxy, had only just begun. Humanity, with its newfound strength, would carve its own destiny, not in the shadows, but at the forefront of galactic politics. The Zatari, the other alien factions, and even humanity's own future lay at the mercy of the choices they make next. The camera pans across the stars, the vastness of the galaxy stretching infinitely. The soft hum of the recording device fades as Lena's voice fills the silence, a voice transformed by time, wisdom, and experience. To those who listen, in this moment of uncertainty, I speak not of the war we fought, nor the pain we endured. I speak of what we became after the ashes settled. For in our darkest hour, humanity revealed its true nature, not as a species of mere survival, but as one of unyielding creativity, of adaptation beyond comprehension. The scene shifts to Lena standing in a laboratory filled with glowing alien technology. Beside her, a hologram of the Earth rotates, its surface scarred but vibrant. The faint outlines of human and alien researchers are seen in the background, working together, studying shared data.
We were the spark that ignited a new understanding among ourselves and with the species beyond our stars. Our DNA, once coveted for its power, is but the first step. The true gift we offer is not our genetic code, but our will to create, to evolve, to shape the future with the hands we were given. What we are today is not defined by the blood we share, but by what we choose to build together. The future is not a legacy of conquest, but one of cooperation. And this is just the beginning. The scene shifts to a darkened command room, walls covered in holographic maps and alien symbols. Lena stands before a council of alien representatives, all now facing the truth that they sought humanity for power, but found something entirely different.